Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the NBA slate on Draftkings for Wednesday, November the 2nd. We do have a big slate tonight, 10 games for this Wednesday slate, and normally for these bigger slates, I do try and go a little bit quicker. We're going to go game by game and talk through each one of these 10 games, but we're going to do it kind of quickly. I'm just going to give my thoughts on each game, what stands out to me, taking a first look at this slate on Tuesday night. But before we do get started with the breakdown, as always, if you guys enjoy these DFS videos, make sure you hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button if you have not yet, and also check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. So PrizePicks, they are a player prop based DFS site, very simple, very easy to use. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection. Obviously, I'm making this video on Tuesday night, so there's not really any projections up right now, just a couple. But as we get closer to the start of the games Wednesday, you'll see the full board posted with a ton of player props to choose from. And if you have any leans one way or the other, you can take more or less on a player's projection. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks, and you can win up to 10 extra money on PrizePicks. You guys definitely need to be playing over there. Sign up, use promo code NOAH. When you do sign up with my promo code, you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. And I should have my PrizePicks video posted either sometime later tonight or sometime early tomorrow morning, depending on when the full board gets posted. I'll share a couple plays I like for PrizePicks today if you want to check that video out. As always, I do share some plays I like for PrizePicks each day on my YouTube channel, make separate PrizePicks videos. But let's talk through this 10-game slate for Wednesday, guys. We'll start off with the first game of the night, Sacramento and Miami. And this one's going to be one we have to spend a little bit of time on just because there are some injuries to talk about here. So De'Aaron Fox is out for the Kings, and Tyler Hero got injured in Tuesday's game. This is a back-to-back for Miami, so we don't know yet if Tyler Hero is going to play. He got injured. It was an eye injury, and he did not return. Back-to-back days, I've rostered a dude who's gotten injured. I played Fox on Monday, and then I played Hero in my lineup on Tuesday. So I've been running pretty bad with the injuries lately, but we'll have to see if Hero's able to play today. But without De'Aaron Fox, obviously that kind of benefits everyone on Sacramento. De'Aaron Fox is a really high-usage player, so getting him off the floor, there's going to be more opportunity, more usage for guys like Sabonis, Keegan Murray, even Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes. And then value-wise, we're definitely going to get some value, talking about some of these cheap guards in a second. But starting off at the top, you got Jimmy Butler at 8,800. Really good matchup here against Sacramento. I think Butler is okay on the slate. I definitely would have more interest in him if Hero sits. If Hero plays, then Butler's just kind of like, he's playable, but I don't love him. But if Hero does get ruled out, that is going to be a nice boost because, Tyler Hero is a pretty high usage player. So getting Hero off the floor, there's going to be some beneficiaries. Obviously, Jimmy Butler would be one of them. Domantas Sabonis, I think, should benefit a little bit here without De'Aaron Fox. Now, it is a really tough matchup against Miami. Miami historically been one of the better defensive teams. They're a pretty tough matchup in general. Bam Adebayo is a really good defender. When these teams did just play a couple days ago, Sabonis actually fouled out in 23 minutes. He should be productive when he's on the floor, but I do worry about this matchup. I think, his production might not be as good in this spot versus like any other matchup. But there's definitely a ceiling for Sabonis. He's a riskier option though, just because it is a tough matchup. Bam Adebayo, I think, is kind of priced correctly for a big slate like this. I had a lot of interest in Bam on Tuesday's slate, but that was just shorter slate, bigger slate. Not as much interest in Bam today. Keegan Murray at 6K, I think is kind of priced about right. He should benefit a little bit without De'Aaron Fox, but at 6K, I'm not really running to roster Keegan Murray today. Kevin Huerter at 5,500 did see a little bit of a price bump. He's okay. He's had some really good games lately. He's been playing big minutes as well. His minutes have kind of been solid this season, outside from that one game against Memphis where I think he got injured. He's played like 30, 32 minutes a night, and obviously without De'Aaron Fox, they're going to need more scoring. So, I think Kevin Huerter is okay on this slate. He's more of a GPP option, though. I think his price is about where it should be. The guy that really stands out from Sacramento is Davion Mitchell. Made him the thumbnail for today. He's probably going to be the best, probably the best value play on the slate. We'll have to wait and see what other value opens up today, but I'm expecting Davion Mitchell to start in place of De'Aaron Fox. We've seen Davion Mitchell be a pretty productive player when he does get minutes. I know last season, whenever he started in place of Fox, his price tag was at he was like a 7K player. Obviously, 4,200 is just way too cheap for Mitchell here. So Mitchell is probably the best value play on the slate, assuming he obviously starts in place of De'Aaron Fox. Should be some more minutes available for a guy like Malik Monk too. And if you want to go to Malik Monk and GPPs, I don't hate it. He only played 15 minutes last game, but obviously without Fox, there's more minutes available in that backcourt. But clearly, Davion Mitchell is the guy that really stands out from Sacramento today. He's definitely the best play in this game. But there are some other guys you can target, and I would have some more interest in some of these Miami guys, like even Kyle Lowry I kind of skipped over. If Tyler Hero gets ruled out, I think that does benefit Kyle Lowry as well. He would become playable too. But clearly the best play in this game is going to be, Davion Mitchell. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one, talk about Cleveland and Boston. So not one that I really have much interest in. Two pretty good defensive teams and two fairly slow-paced teams as well. Guys like Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown, they always have big upside, but on this slate, none of them really stand out to me. Darius Garland could maybe return today. He's questionable. He got a full practice in on Tuesday, so if Darius Garland returns, that's going to definitely give a slight bump down to Mitchell. Definitely going to lower my, Karis LeVert would pretty much be out of play. Garland himself, if Garland plays and he's fully healthy, he's only 6,600. I mean, what are we going to get from Darius Garland? I don't really know. It was an eye injury, so I don't think it's something that he shouldn't have a minutes limit. I wouldn't think. It's not like he's coming back from a leg injury. So at 6,600, if we're getting full minutes from Darius Garland, he's kind of interesting on this slate. Again, he's kind of a GPP option. He's not a standout play, but 6,600 is definitely too cheap for Darius Garland. I doubt we see him priced at that price tag for much of the season. If he'll probably be priced in the 7K range next slate. So he's definitely, viable, but I'm not loving much in this Boston-Cleveland game. I mean, nothing really stands out here. Honestly, my favorite play might be Darius Garland if he plays, but that's just kind of like a GPP option. Jared Allen at 6,800 looks okay, but again, on a 10-game slate, I feel like there's going to be better center plays to target. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game. Not a ton to love in that one. Atlanta and New York. So looking at this one here, obviously, there's a little bit of a narrative here with Trae Young facing the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. Obviously, we know what happened in the playoffs 2 years ago when they played. I mean, if you want to play that narrative, Trae Young in the Garden, against the team that in the fan base that doesn't like him, then yeah, you could do that, I guess. But I'm not really in love with Trae today. I think he's just kind of like a pay-up option. He's a pay-up to be contrarian kind of play. He's not a standout stud on this 10-game slate. DeJounte Murray at 9,300 feels priced about right. I'm not really in love with him. The Knicks guys, Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, I really haven't been playing any of these guys this season. I know Brunson has had some good games. He might be my favorite of the main three Knicks if I had to go to any of them. I would say it's probably he probably gets the best matchup, but in general, the Hawks are not a team that I really love attacking. I think Brunson's okay. He's probably my favorite play on the Knicks if I had to play anyone on that team. On the Atlanta side, I guess Trae Young's in play for GPPs. Nothing really else stands out from Atlanta though, like John Collins at 6,300. I know he's been playing a lot better this season. He's been more productive. Feels priced about right though for a 10-game slate. Clint Capella's minutes have just not been good enough to really want to go there. So yeah, I think that's it for this one. Again, I'm trying to go a little bit quicker with these games. I don't want to spend a ton of time on every game. Do want to mention real quick, Onyeka Okongwu is questionable, so if he does sit out, that actually probably would be a boost for Clint Capella because obviously Okongwu is a really good backup and he's a guy they have a lot of trust in. They want to give him minutes. I mean, you look, he's been playing about 20 minutes a night. I'm guessing Frank Kaminsky would get those backup center minutes, and I don't know if they really have much trust in Frank Kaminsky. So I think Clint Capella's minutes would actually be pretty solid here if Okongwu gets ruled out. So definitely keep an eye on that injury. You wouldn't think a backup center getting ruled out would really have much of an impact, but I think it actually would give a nice boost to Clint Capella. I think Clint Capella might actually play over 30 minutes if Okongwu doesn't play. So yeah, keep an eye on that injury. I think it does impact Clint Capella's value a little bit. He's really cheap, so he would become viable. But that's it for this game. Let's move on to the next one. Talk about Charlotte and Chicago. So looking at Charlotte today, still going to be without LaMelo. Terry Rozier is doubtful on the Chicago side. This is a back-to-back for Chicago, and we do have word that Zach LaVine is not going to play today. So without Zach LaVine, obviously DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic both really benefit here, and it's a really good matchup too. So I think both these Chicago guys look very appealing. DeRozan is probably my favorite between the two. DeRozan hasn't been great this season, but he did have a really big game at the beginning of the year whenever Zach LaVine was out. I think DeRozan can really take over whenever LaVine's not on the floor. Again, his production's kind of been down this season. He's not been as productive on a point-per-minute basis, but in a really good matchup against the Hornets without Zach LaVine, priced at 8,500, yeah, I definitely think DeRozan stands out as a really good play today. It's a great matchup for Vooch. I think Vooch is definitely someone we can go to as well. He kind of busted on Tuesday's slate in a really good spot against Brooklyn, but I'd be fine going back to Vooch today. We've historically been targeting Charlotte with bigs. Charlotte's always been a team you can kind of kill with big men. And I think Vooch has had some big games against the Hornets in the past. Obviously, no LaVine is a boost for him as well. So yeah, both the main two guys from Chicago look very appealing here and a really good matchup. And then on the Charlotte side, Dennis Smith Jr., Gordon Hayward, Kelly Oubre, all these guys are benefiting right now without LaMelo, without Terry Rozier. They're all kind of priced appropriately, though. Dennis Smith Jr. did have a really big game last game. He's kind of been up and down, but he has shown a ceiling. He did have 48 DK points last game. He did play 37 minutes. It's 6,700 though. I'm not in love with Dennis Smith Jr. today. Gordon Hayward, Kelly Oubre both feel priced about right. PJ Washington has been playing really well lately. He might be my favorite play on Charlotte if I had to play anyone on the Hornets side. Last 2 games, 43 DK points. His minutes have been really high as well. He's only 5,700. His price tag really didn't move at all, so I definitely have some interest in PJ Washington today. Again, he's probably my favorite play on the Hornets side. And then talking about some potential value from Chicago. So without Zach LaVine, that does open up some more minutes in the backcourt. You should see more minutes for Ayo, more minutes for Caruso. Kobe White was out on Tuesday, so we'll have to pay attention to that. Also, Goran Dragic has been playing really well lately. He got some good minutes, 20 minutes, 24 DK points. Without Zach LaVine, I think there's more minutes for all those guys. Obviously, if Kobe White were to sit, I would feel a little bit better about the minutes for Ayo and Caruso. I'm guessing that Caruso starts. I want to say that last time Zach LaVine was out, Caruso started. At 4,600, Caruso will definitely be someone we can consider for value if he does wind up starting. This game against Philly, I know he started. He played 35 minutes, had 29 DK points. Caruso's not historically been like a great per-minute player, but he should start and play like 30 minutes, and he's only 4,600, so I think he is viable. And then Ayo should play more minutes as well. Got 33 on Tuesday night. He probably plays low to mid-30s again. He's 5,400, which I'm not running to roster Ayo at 5,400, but he definitely would make my player pool if I was making multiple lineups. Just playing one lineup, do I get to Ayo in my one lineup? I don't know. Obviously, I haven't built my lineup yet, but I think Ayo is definitely in play here. He does get a nice little boost without Zach LaVine. But yeah, that's kind of it for this Charlotte-Chicago game. That's pretty much most of my interest in this one. So let's move on to the next game, talk about Detroit and Milwaukee. Just saw these teams play a couple days ago. Obviously, this is a game that has a lot of blowout risk. On the Milwaukee side, you have Giannis and Drew, who both can put up big games any night. But I'm a little bit hesitant to go there, especially like Giannis is 12-6. It's really hard to pay 12-6 for Giannis today, especially it depends on what kind of value we get. If we get a lot of great value, then sure, you can always pay up for Giannis because he's basically, you're guaranteed to get like 50 DraftKings points. I know he put up 44 last game, but that was like worst case scenario for Giannis. I mean, Giannis pretty much has like a 45, 50 point floor. And obviously his ceiling is massive. The only thing I worry about is can Detroit keep this game close? That's a big if, but they did keep it close last time. And Giannis played 32 minutes. So Giannis is so good on a per minute basis. He can put up 60 DraftKings points even if he doesn't even play in the fourth quarter. But I'm not prioritizing Giannis today. It's going to be tough to pay 12-6 for him, especially if we don't get a ton of value as the day goes on. And right now there's some value, but there's not like a ton of great value. Then you have Drew at 8,200. Like, Drew doesn't really stand out on the slate. Cade Cunningham, I think, had a really good game against Milwaukee. 48 DK points. He's been playing really well lately. He's also been playing big minutes. It's a tough spot going up against Drew, but, Cade just did do really well against Milwaukee when they just played. Cade's a guy that can contribute in all categories. He can score, rebound, get assists. He has legitimate triple-double upside. He's just a GPP play for me, but I wouldn't rule him out on this slate. Like, I think he is in play. And honestly, if you are going to play someone on the Milwaukee side, like if you're going to play Giannis today, it kind of makes sense to play someone on the Detroit side, hope the game stays close, and like in a scenario where you do get a close game, you could see a big game from Giannis and a big game from a guy like Cade Cunningham. So that's kind of something you could look to do maybe in tournaments. But like these other guys like Jaden Ivey, Bobby Portis, Bojan, none of them really stand out. I know Bojan's been playing really well lately. He's actually been great for Detroit this season, been very consistent. But on a 10-game slate, does Bojan have enough upside to win you a GPP? I really don't think so. I feel like 40 DK points is like his ceiling. Like, that's best case scenario. And there's definitely other guys in the 6K range that can get you over 40 DK points. But Bojan has been good this year, and he's playable if you want to go there. But I think that's probably it from this game. Like, another guy that's been playing well is Brook Lopez. But like, Brook Lopez is never someone that I ever get excited to roster. But his minutes have been really good lately, 33, 34, 34. He's been very consistent in terms of production. But at 5,400 on a 10-game slate, again, I'm not really in love with Brook Lopez. So, yeah, I think that does it for Detroit-Milwaukee. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game, talk about the Clippers and the Rockets. Another game we just saw played a couple days ago. Paul George starting off at 9,800. I think Paul George is a really good pay-up option here. Really good matchup against Houston. He just crushed against Houston when they played recently. 38 minutes, 75 DraftKings points. Obviously, Paul George is going to dominate the usage without Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's going to be out for this game. We saw PG take 26 shots last game, 35 points. He had 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 blocks, 6 steals. Just a crazy good game from Paul George. Not expecting 75 DraftKings points again, but I think PG does have 55, 60 points in it, 60 DK points in his range of outcomes, just because he is going to dominate the usage while Kawhi Leonard is out. So do have some interest in Paul George. In this mid-range, guys like KPJ, Zubac, Jalen Green. On this slate, I don't think any of them stand out. Zubac did have a pretty good game against Houston, and Zubac is a guy that can be productive when he gets minutes. The only concern is that his minutes have just been all over the place this season. Basically, look at his game log. So 35 minutes and 45 DK points. 24 minutes, 21 minutes, 23, 13. 35, 34 minutes, 45, 40. 23 minutes, 16. 32 minutes, 41. So it's basically, if he plays over 30 minutes, he's probably getting you 35, 40 DraftKings points. Will he play over 30 minutes? That's the big question. We just never know with Zubac. So the uncertainty in his minutes does always make him kind of a GPP option, especially when he's 6,500. If Zubac was like 5K today, he'd be an incredible play, but obviously he's not 5K, he's 6,500. So at 6,500, I'm not really like running to roster Zubac, but I think he does have the upside if he gets the minutes. Now, on the other hand, you have Şengün at 5,900. Şengün's been starting. I think he started the last 3 games, and he's been playing about 30 minutes a night. His production has not been as great as we've seen in the past, but I still think Şengün at 5,900 is too cheap. He has historically been a productive player when he does get minutes. He should average over a fantasy point per minute. He should play probably 30 to 32 minutes. So I'm definitely interested in Şengün. Him and Paul George are probably my 2 favorite plays overall in this game. With John Wall back, I think that definitely takes me off of guys like Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris. I know Eric Gordon's had some good games lately, but on a 10-game slate, I really don't want to play Eric Gordon. I think the upside's pretty minimal there. So yeah, I think that's it for this game. Definitely, Paul George and Şengün are my 2 favorite plays here. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game though. Talk about the Raptors and the Spurs. So looking at this one, some key injuries to talk about in this game. Fred VanVleet's questionable, Keldon Johnson's questionable, and then Devin Vassell's already been ruled out. Skohan, however you say his name, he is questionable, I do believe. Yeah, he's questionable, so going to have to keep an eye on some injuries here. Now, starting off with Toronto, obviously the main Raptors guys, Siakam, Scotty Barnes, OG, and Gary Trent, all of them would see little boost here if Fred VanVleet sits. I'm pretty sure Siakam had a really big game last game. I know OG had a really big game. Siakam went for 61 DK points in 35 minutes. OG had 42 DK points in 32 minutes. I don't know if Scotty Barnes had as good of a game. He was solid, 45 DK points in 33 minutes. I think Gary Trent was the one guy that kind of disappointed, 29 DK points in 37 minutes. But without Fred VanVleet, that just concentrates the usage so much around those 4 guys. You look at the rest of the Toronto bench, like they don't really have much bench depth. They really rely on their starters heavily. Nick Nurse is going to play his starters like 36, 38 minutes. So if Fred VanVleet is out again, I do have some interest in Siakam, some interest in Scotty Barnes, OG, Gary Trent. Honestly, I think OG and Trent would be my 2 favorites just because they're kind of cheap, whereas like Siakam's 9,500 now. At 9,500, I think Siakam still has the upside to pay off that salary, but he's priced correctly, whereas I think OG should be priced closely to Scotty Barnes. Gary Trent should be up there in like the low 6K range. So I definitely think OG and Gary Trent kind of look appealing here if VanVleet's out. Now, if VanVleet plays, probably not considering anyone on Toronto as like a top option today. Maybe VanVleet could be viable at 7,700, but my interest in the Raptors is going to all depend on if VanVleet's in or out. And then on the San Antonio side, so Keldon Johnson being questionable is a pretty big one. Keldon Johnson obviously is a guy that plays big minutes on a nightly basis. He also has a very high usage rate. So getting Keldon Johnson out is going to open up a lot of minutes. It's also going to open up a lot of usage. I don't know if Jakob Poeltl would really benefit just because he's not a guy that's really going to shoot the ball a ton, but I think there'll definitely be more usage available for Trey Jones, for Josh Richardson. Even a guy like Doug McDermott might get some more shot attempts. We'd have to wait and see like what they do with the starting lineup. I want to say they did start Keita Bates-Diop the other day, and he was solid. So like if Keita Bates-Diop were to start in place of Keldon Johnson, he would definitely be on the radar for value. If Doug McDermott were to draw the start, he'd be in play for value. But I do think that guys like Poeltl, not necessarily Poeltl, I don't know if his role really changes, but for sure Trey Jones and Josh Richardson would benefit. But like they're not that cheap. I mean, Trey Jones is 6,200, Josh Richardson is 5,800. These guys were a little bit cheaper. I think they would definitely be standout plays today, but they are kind of priced correctly. But obviously, they will become viable if Keldon Johnson is out. Now, this is the same scenario. Like, if Keldon Johnson plays, I don't think I'm really rostering anyone on San Antonio today. Like, nobody stands out from the Spurs, especially because it is kind of a tougher matchup against the Raptors. So, yeah, a lot of my interest in this game is going to depend on who actually is playing. We'll have to keep an eye on the injury report here. Some key questionables that will definitely impact my interest overall from this one. But, yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next game, talk about Utah and Dallas. So, looking at Utah and Dallas, we got Luka at the top here for 12,300. I think Luka is right up there with Giannis in terms of just, top overall stud in terms of floor and ceiling. Luka has been so consistent this season. I mean, his worst game this season was 56 DK points against Phoenix. He's had 56 DK points or more in every single game this year. And also, obviously, he has like some 80-point game, 71-point game. Utah, historically, not been a team we really love to target, but I know the Jazz this season probably won't be as stout defensively. I think it's a good spot for Luka. He's going to dominate the usage. It all depends on what kind of value we get. If we get a lot of value, I definitely think paying up for Luka makes a lot of sense just because you're getting such a high floor and Luka always has that massive ceiling. If I had to build my lineup right now, would I try and jam in Luka? I don't think so. So it's all going to depend on what kind of value we get as the day goes on. Right now, I'm not leaning towards paying up for a guy like Luka or Giannis, but that could definitely change if we get some value. But clearly, Luka's a good play. He's pretty much a good play every slate he's on. He has so much freaking upside, man. Then you have Lauri Markkanen at 7,600. Lauri Markkanen has been playing incredibly well for the Jazz this year. Back-to-back big games, 45 and 60 DK points. But at 7,600, I don't think I'm going to go to Lauri Markkanen today. I just think he's just too expensive in my opinion. Can he still go out there and put up a big game and outperform the salary? He absolutely can. I just think the chances of him outperforming the salary are obviously not as high. So I'm not super in love with Lauri Markkanen today. Christian Wood is questionable, so this will be something to monitor. Christian Wood is a pretty high-usage player off the bench for Dallas. So obviously, if Christian Wood were to sit, that would just be an even heavier workload for a guy like Luka. It would even open up some more usage for guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, Tim Hardaway. Maybe Dorian Finney-Smith benefits a little bit. And then you probably would see more minutes for guys like Maxi Kleber. Maybe JaVale McGee plays a little bit more. But I think Wood being out would just really kind of benefit the main guys that we want to target. Luka, Dinwiddie at 5,600 I'd have some interest in. But I don't think Christian Wood being in or out is like a slate-altering change, in my opinion. Looking at some of these other Utah guys, though, there's nothing else on Utah I'm really loving. Clarkson, Conley, Olynyk, all feel priced right. Same with Jared Vanderbilt. Really no value stands out in this game. If Christian Wood does get ruled out, I think we can look to a guy like Maxi Kleber. But on a 10-game slate, is Maxi Kleber going to be someone I want to prioritize? Not really. Maxi Kleber has never been a guy that has shown much upside. But he should play more minutes if Wood were to sit, and he would become a playable value. JaVale McGee, his minutes have just never been that high. I mean, it's hard to say how many minutes JaVale McGee can play at this point. If you told me he was going to play 24 minutes, I would play him at 3,500, but I just have no confidence that he can play 24 minutes, even if Christian Wood is out. So, yeah, even if Christian Wood's out, I'm probably not going to go to JaVale McGee. He would just be a large field dart throw, in my opinion. So that probably does it for this game. Let's go ahead and move on to the last two games of the night, two late-night games, Memphis and Portland. So some injuries to talk about in this one. Obviously, Damian Lillard is out right now for Portland. But Josh Hart's also questionable, so this will be something to monitor. Plus, Desmond Bane is questionable, and Steven Adams is questionable. So there could be some value to go to in this game. Starting off with Desmond Bane and Steven Adams. If Bane winds up sitting, I don't know if we're going to get much value from Memphis, but there would definitely be more upside for a guy like John Morant, more upside for a guy like Dylan Brooks. Obviously, those guys are not that cheap. I think they did start John Conchar last game that Desmond Bane was out in. Conchar did play 26 minutes, had 15 DK points. On a 10-game slate at 4,200, I wouldn't be running to roster Conchar, but he would become playable if Desmond Bane sits. However, if Steven Adams is out, then we will get some really good value. So I don't know who would start in place of Steven Adams. It would either be Brandon Clark or Xavier Tillman. I think Xavier Tillman did get some minutes last game. He did. So if Steven Adams sits, both Clark and Tillman are good permanent players. Tillman's the stone minimum 3K, and he's got power forward center eligibility. And then Clark is 4,700. He's also cheap and has power forward center eligibility. So if Steven Adams is out, whoever starts between Clark or Tillman, I really like for value. If Tillman starts, can you still go to Clark? I think you can, just because we know Clark is going to get 18, 20 minutes regardless. And obviously, if Steven Adams were to sit, there's a chance he plays 26, 28 minutes, even if he doesn't start. And I think Tillman, if he winds up starting, would pretty much be guaranteed to play at least 20 minutes. And Tillman, 20 minutes from Tillman at 3K, he can easily outperform the salary. So there's going to be some value to go to from Memphis today. If Steven Adams winds up sitting, that'll be some news we need to keep an eye on. And then looking at Portland here, so without Damian Lillard, obviously big usage for guys like Anthony Simons, big workloads for Nurkic, for Jeremy Grant too. Anthony Simons got a little bit of a price bump, but really not much. He was 7,100 last slate. He's 7,600 today. He played 38 minutes last game without Dame, took 20 shots, had 52 DraftKings points. That was obviously a really good matchup against Houston. I think this matchup against Memphis, though, is still solid. It's obviously not as good, but I still think this is a spot where Anthony Simons can put up a big game. We know the usage rate is going to be high. We know the shot attempts are going to be high as well. So I do still like Anthony Simons, and I think if Josh Hart sits, that's probably even better for Simons. Nurkic is 7,500. Feels priced about right, but he did have a big game as well last game without Dame. 32 minutes, 55 DK points. Again, not as good of a matchup here, but I still think Nurkic has upside and is playable in GPPs. Jeremy Grant was kind of disappointing last game. 32 DK points, 35 minutes. He's priced at 6,300. His price tag really didn't move at all, so I still think Jeremy Grant is viable. I mean, most of these Portland guys are still in play for me. I know the price tags moved a little bit, but probably not enough in my opinion. And obviously, their value would increase if Josh Hart were to sit. We did see Shaedon Sharpe start last game in place of Lillard. I'm guessing Shaedon Sharpe will start again. He's 5K. He played 29 minutes last game. He wasn't super productive. Now that he's 5K, I'm not really that interested in Shaedon Sharpe. But I do want to mention, Justice Winslow, because if Josh Hart were to sit, we could definitely see Justice Winslow move into the starting lineup. Winslow played 24 minutes off the bench last game and was really productive. I think Winslow is in play regardless because I think he's going to play like 24, 25 minutes off the bench no matter if Hart's in or out. If Hart winds up getting ruled out, though, we could see Winslow start and potentially play like 30, 32 minutes. So, yeah, Justice Winslow is going to be a pretty good value play today regardless of if Josh Hart is in or out. And if Josh Hart's out, I think that's even better for Winslow. So there's going to be a lot to like in this game, and there definitely could be some value from this game depending on if Hart, Adams play, because I think if those guys get ruled out, we did talk about who would benefit there and what kind of value plays would open up. But let's go ahead and talk about the last game of the night, the Pelicans and the Lakers. So look at the Lakers here. I think LeBron's probable as expected. I think Anthony Davis though is questionable. So Anthony Davis, I believe he did play in their last game if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure he played in their last game. So I would expect AD to play today. Obviously LeBron and AD are going to dominate the usage on this Lakers team. At 10-9 for LeBron, 9-1 for AD. I think they're still in play. I mean, LeBron just has such a high floor just because he's getting so much usage in this Lakers offense. He's playing so many minutes, and he's also he's stuffing the stat sheet. He's doing everything when he's on the floor. I would rather get up to a guy like Luka, I think, over LeBron if I can, but I still think LeBron's in play. He should be pretty low owned on a big slate like this. And then Anthony Davis at 9,100. I mean, Anthony Davis, when he's been healthy, he's been a really productive point per minute player. Obviously, last few games, 56, 58, 49 DK points. He's a guy that's going to score a ton. His rebounds have been really well since he's been starting at center. 9,100 is still too cheap for Anthony Davis, in my opinion. So I do like Anthony Davis quite a bit as well. I think him and LeBron both are in play today. Between the two, honestly, I think I'd take the savings and play Anthony Davis. But if we get a lot of value and I can fit LeBron, I have no issue doing that. I definitely think both Lakers guys are in play here. I wouldn't play them together in the same lineup on a 10-game slate, but I think playing one of the two does make some sense here. And then on the Pelican side, still no Brandon Ingram, so should see some big usage bumps for guys like Zion, for CJ McCollum, for J-Val. Zion at 8,700. If you told me he was going to play more than 30 minutes, I think I'd be interested, but it looks like he's kind of being capped at 30, 32 minutes right now. I don't think we're going to be getting 35, 36 minutes from Zion, at least not right now. So at 8,700, it's going to be hard for him to really put up a score that you have to have at this salary when he's only playing 30 minutes. But, man, the matchup's really good against the Lakers. The Lakers' defense has not been good. I know they've been giving up a lot of points to bigs this season, so I think Zion's in a good spot. Just the minutes cap on him does make it kind of tough to play him in DFS. CJ McCollum should have a pretty big role. I think it's a good matchup for him. 8,600, though, he's kind of priced correctly, but he's still viable for GPPs. I think it's a really good matchup for J-Val. I know the Lakers have been giving up a lot of fantasy points to centers this season. Wouldn't be surprised to see a big game from J-Val here, but at 7,700, he's just kind of a GPP low-owned option. He's probably a good play on the late slate. For the full 10-game main slate, I don't know if I'd go to J-Val, but it is a really good matchup, so he's at least playable. And then, other plays in this game, there's really nothing else that stands out here. I mean, Trey Murphy's 5,900 now, so even though he's starting, I'm not going to go to Trey Murphy at that salary. Lonnie Walker's been starting, but he feels priced about right at 5K. He's had some good games lately. He has been playing pretty good minutes, so he's not out of play. But again, on a 10-game slate where we probably will have better value open up as the day goes on, I don't think Walker's going to be someone that I really build around today. So yeah, that's probably it for this game. Obviously, the stars are what really stands out in this one. LeBron, AD. Again, Zion's in play, but the minutes cap on him does make it kind of tough to roster him at that salary. So yeah, that does it for this 10-game Wednesday slate, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, appreciate you watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you guys have not yet. Check out PrizePicks as well. They are the sponsor of this video. Go sign up for PrizePicks. Use promo code NOAH. When you do, you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. And I will have a PrizePicks video posted for today, either probably sometime on Wednesday. But if PrizePicks does post some props tonight, I might try and get a video posted tonight, depending on how many props are available. But check out that PrizePicks video whenever I post it if you want to know some plays that I'll be on for this big 10-game slate. But as always, best of luck tonight, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. We will see you in the next one. Peace.